Well, Eric, we've got quite a lot to talk about, to go from a scale such as that to our homeowner's scale, and some of the materials that were coming in to your facility, and what we can use at home that sort of mimics that. So how do you suggest a homeowner start with composting if they've never done so before?
Absolutely. So composting is easy to do, and you can put as much work into it or as little work into it as you like, so it's friendly to all. I would recommend starting with a countertop compost bin. And while this is a shiny bin, it's really nothing special. It's got a lid with some air holes and a charcoal filter to keep some of the smells in, but you could really use anything you want. But,
Yes.
but having it handy so that as you're preparing your meal, you can scrape those food trimmings into it is key. So having that handy is where you start. And
I happen to have one of those.
Nice,
Yes.
nice, absolutely. And it's a great measuring device too, because once it's full and you bring this out to your compost pile, you dump your fresh trimmings out, and then you want to use the same to measure other things that will break down a little slower, your carbon sources, your browns, if you will. The food is the green, but your browns you want to put on at least 2-to-1, hopefully 3-to-1 ratio. So
Proportions are important.
exactly. And you can use this as your scoop. So you want to have stockpiles of your carbon, so you can just scoop it out and cover the food that you just brought to your pile. So I've got some things to share.
Please do, because some of
Absolutely.
these things are pretty innovative, so I'm pretty excited.
Absolutely. So at the during spring, when you're cleaning up your old beds, don't throw away that old mulch. Use
No,
it. Mulch is
yes.
great for making compost piles, and one of the reasons why it's so great is because it has lots of texture and shape, so that you can create air pockets for the microbes in the compost. So by composting, you're just creating the ideal environment for those microbes to thrive.
So air is very important for compost.
Absolutely. Air, water, and food. That's all they need. Just like us, we're giving them the food, and we need to create an environment that has lots of air pockets. And so as we show different things that you can use in your compost pile at home, air is the key thing that I'll keep touching on.
Okay.
So we've got that.
In the spring, and then
In
the
the
fall.
spring. And in the fall, we have leaves. So you
Right.
can see leaves. And leaves are great because it's essentially carbon ready to go. And carbon, things that are breaking down slower, mixing with the things that are breaking down fast, helps give it a nice slow approach for the microbes to actually do their job before your compost pile turns into a slimy mess.
Right.
But-
so it's not like a fast food joint. It's more slower.
Exactly. And you can see the leaves are just crumbling, and it's ready to go and ready to turn into healthy soil.
But you've got some unique things there to put into the compost.
You're right. So most people, when they compost at home, struggle with having enough browns or enough carbon-rich materials. And so at home, you have to be a little creative.
Okay.
And so I've got all sorts of fun stuff here. So pizza boxes aren't good for recycling, but they are great for composting. You can see that I've torn it into small pieces,
Yes.
because if it was a big sheet of cardboard, that's not really going to break
Yeah,
down your
that's
compost
not,
pile.
no.
And again, when it's irregular shapes like this, all sorts of other
Air.
air pockets in
All
that.
that air.
So that's a great thing to use for pizza boxes. Again, paper towel tubes. You could recycle this as cardboard, but this has built-in air pockets, and it's nice. It's paper. If it grows, it goes. And paper was once growing. It's wood pulp, so it's fantastic stuff for your compost pile. Paper towel tubes as well as the paper towels. So when you're cleaning up in the kitchen, you've got a messy paper towel from a spill. Put it in the compost. It's got the best of both worlds. It's got your food waste, and it's got built-in carbon.
Didn't think about that. That's a great idea.
Absolutely. Now, if you're cleaning up with chemical sprays, you want to avoid those materials.
Yeah,
Put in
those
those.
you would put those in the trash.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Coffee filters with coffee. If anybody still makes coffee with a basket style, the coffee filters are compostable along with the grounds.
Do the grounds make the compost acidic, or is it more of a neutral?
I think it's more neutral, but it's also depending on how much. If you're running a diner, then you might end up being a little acidic, because you're probably going to have a lot of coffee. But at home, I think most people don't drink enough coffee to turn the
Yeah.
whole pile acidic.
Okay.
So,
Some other fun things. I never thought about egg cartons.
yes, egg cartons. So paper egg cartons, paper again, and it's great because it's got all sorts of little weird shapes for air pockets. So throwing this in your compost pile, maybe tearing in a couple of different pieces,
Yes.
it'll break down just great. Nice paper for the carbon, and air pockets for the microbes. And we've also got, if anybody shreds office paper at home,
Do so often.
Yep,
Yes.
exactly. So keep out your staples and your windowed envelopes, and you've got some great additional material that you can add in. Not too much because it will kind of clump together,
I was going to
but
say, yeah.
just in different measures.
So we're still on our 1 bucket of food scraps to 2 buckets of, I'll say unique compostable items.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily put 2 buckets of paper, but
Mix
if you
it around.
Mix it around,
Yeah.
exactly. And paper bags as well. So
I saw that.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So if you got the option of paper or plastic in a store, paper will compost just well. It gets nice and wet in your compost pile, and it'll break
Breaks
down
right
in little
down.
pieces. Yeah.
Yes.
So yep.
We all know what happens when you put the wet milk in the paper bag.
Exactly.
But what are some of the things that we shouldn't be putting in our compost pile for at home?
Absolutely. So good question. So you want to keep out plastics, metals, and glass, and you want to keep out meat, because even though meat was once growing, and it'll break down great in a compost pile, it's going to take a little bit longer in your home compost pile, and and it will attract animals before it fully composts,
Yeah.
and so you don't want to turn your backyard compost pile into a feeding frenzy for neighborhood critters.
I don't think your neighbors would appreciate that.
No.
But you've got some other products over there too.
Yes. So we talked about all these paper products being compostable. So one would naturally think that, hey, this paper coffee cup that I just finished,
fell
just
into it,
emptied,
yeah.
would be great for composting. But unfortunately, paper products that are made for food that are especially like liquid in nature, such as coffee, they're plastic lined. So you cannot compost a paper coffee cup unless it specifically says compostable, because then it's made with a corn-based plastic polymer that is designed to break down in a compost pile without
Okay.
any residue. So I'd say no on the coffee cups.
Okay.
And along the same lines, milk cartons, these used to be wax lined, and wax paper would compost fantastic. However, they do not make wax cartons
Really?
anymore. So nope, they're all plastic lined, plastic on the outside,
Aw.
plastic on the inside, so the milk doesn't soak through. So unfortunately, this is not compostable. Some places can recycle cartons, but
Yep.
not compost.
Well, Eric, let's get to the finished product. We're down to our last bit of time.
Sure. So the finished product is right
Beautiful
here.
black gold.
Black gold. So and this looks good. It's because it's what we do for a living. So don't disparage at home. It's not going to look this great.
Mine doesn't.
Mine doesn't at home either. So, but at work we make great compost. So yeah. That's our
There's the
finished product.
grand finale.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, Eric, thank you. Thank you for coming in and showing us some unique ways that we can compost and giving us, I'll say, the down and dirty on it. Sorry, I had to say that.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Certainly.